All right, I am showing noon on the dot, so we will go ahead and kick things off. Welcome everyone to the American Family Insurance Dream Bank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. My name is Andy Frisky. I am a senior dream curator with DreamBank, and on behalf of myself and the rest of the team, we are so thrilled that you are with us today. As we go ahead and get started, we always like to kind of poll the audience to see where people are tuning in from today. And encourage you to share so in the chat section if you're comfortable with that. For those of you who maybe aren't familiar, we'd love to take a few brief moments here and introduce you to DreamBank. So here at American Family Insurance, we believe that communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. And that's why DreamBank was created, an inspirational community destination and digital experience that is dedicated to dreamers everywhere. Our offerings are designed to help you celebrate the dream journey, overcome obstacles, and stay motivated. This event happens to fall under our business-related event series. I'll go ahead and I will post a link in the chat, just with a concise list of all of our upcoming events too. We have 9 distinct event series to really kind of give you the full flavor of the offerings that we have. But would like to go ahead and introduce our speaker today, Susan Thomson. Susan is with ActionCOACH, and thank you so much for joining us today, Susan. We will go ahead and let you take it from here.
2 sales reps get airlifted into a third world country to see if there's a market for what their company sells, which is shoes. So they're in there 30 some hours. They're not on the ground for 5 minutes, and rep number 1's on the phone with the home office. Oh my gosh, stop the shipment. You got to get us out of here. There's no market for what we do here. The villagers don't wear shoes. Not 2 minutes later, sales rep number 2 is on the phone with the home office. Oh my gosh, there's an amazing opportunity here. The villagers don't have shoes. 2 people, both looking at the same situation. What's the difference? Yeah, right. Which set of eyes each chooses to look through? One seeing nothing but obstacles, the other opportunity, one focusing on the negative, the other possibility. You see, friends, what I think it takes for you and for me to be successful personally and professionally in your business and in your life, it's all about the choices that you make. Got it? Good. All right. As Andy said, my name is Susan Thomson. I really want to thank Andy and DreamBank for having us on today. It's an honor to be selected to present to you guys. And this is like our 3rd or 4th appearance here. So that's pretty exciting. And I really want to kind of do a shout out for American Family and DreamBank at the same time. It's not every insurance company that makes these kinds of investments in the community this way. What they're doing is very, very special. So especially as startups, if you're thinking of starting a business, or if you've already started a business and are on that path, really urge you to take advantage of some of the programs that American Family has available to the community, because other insurance companies aren't supporting you in this way. As Andy said, my name is Susan Thomson. I am one of the co-founders of ActionCOACH with my business partner, Mike McKay, here in Wisconsin. And let's get right to it. You'll hear more about me as we go through the presentation. I have a lot to share with you. I'm going to be sharing exclusive content from our 2-day business planning boot camp called Ascend, which really covers everything from A to Z. And I've got a lot to share with you. So I'm going to ask that you hold your questions to the end. We've got a time built in at the end, and I have a couple of places for you to enter some stuff into the chat throughout. But if I start taking questions, I won't be able to get through everything that I brought to share with you. So please take good notes, hold your questions to the end, and then I have a couple of free resources for you at the end if you want to get additional help. Okay, so 3 things I'm going to share with you today. First, I'm going to share with you my story of how my company went from a startup. I was a startup just like you guys are, to nice steady growth to solidly stuck, and then back to really explosive growth. And I want to share with you what my turning point was. I think you'll find that instructive. Second, I'll share with you the 3 myths you've been led to believe by others that are actually keeping you from getting started. Business planning is one of those things that everybody knows you need to do and everybody avoids doing it. So we'll talk through what some of those myths are that are actually keeping you stuck. And then third, I'll share with you the recipe or the blueprint, the simplest, fastest ways for you to include the 6 critical areas in your business plan that most startups miss and therefore get caught short. And the 5 strategies that absolutely guarantee you will make more money in your business and gain control of your time. This is so important to you as a startup, is to not all of a sudden buy yourself 80-hour weeks here and become overwhelmed, but to be able to do this in a way that really gives you the freedom that you go into business for yourself to start with. So first, my story. So I launched this company back in midway through 2007, right before the crash of 2008. And what you see 2007 to about 2012 is slow, steady rise in business. Okay, very typical for a startup. We, like I said, started right before the crash, and back in 2007, this is one of the things you'll need to be able to do is, we'd pick up the telephone and call people and they'd say, no, things are fine. And things were fine right before the crash in 2007. And then all of a sudden in 2008, people were calling us and saying, oh my goodness, we just went from 50 employees down to 2. Can you help us? Well, it's a little late. So luckily for us, a couple of companies gave us a chance. They gave us a shot, and we were able to show tremendous growth and results despite some very, very difficult economic circumstances locally and internationally. And that gave us a lot of credibility to grow within Dane County here. In 2013, I brought on a business partner. We teamed up. And you can see we almost between 2012 and 2013 doubled in size, and then a good 50% growth for the next 2 years. So really nice trajectory. And then about 2015, we got solidly stuck. And that happened for about 4 years. Incredibly frustrating. Then I'll share with you what changed, but got in a little better situation in 2019. COVID happened 2020, and now we're on a track to double again this year. So what happened? What was the turning point? First and foremost, for us, we got help. We're a coaching company, right? We're a business and executive coaching company. We use coaches too, and sometimes you need more than just your primary coach. So we actually went and spent a couple of days, invested a couple of days with the founder of ActionCOACH. ActionCOACH is a global franchise. It's in 81 countries. I'll get to that in a minute. But went and literally invested a couple of days with him to help us get unstuck. And what he said was, after listening to all of the ups and downs and those kinds of things, he just said, you guys have proven to yourselves whatever it was that you were looking to prove to begin with. You need to go get a bigger vision. And so I was like, okay. And he said, and here's the definition of a bigger vision. It either needs to scare the crap out of you, or it needs to make you so excited that you will walk on water to get it done. Right. So we go off, and, a couple of bottles of wine later, we got nothing. We come back in the next morning with our heads hanging, and we've got absolutely no idea of what. Well, there were lots of things we talked about that we could support, but nothing that was like, oh, that would be fantastic. And so he just kind of made this flip comment and said, you know what, just go and go write a plan to come back with $100 million firm. And let's just say that's a wee far off from where we are right now. And I remember looking at my business partner and it's like, well, that satisfies the scaring the crap out of me. And then when we went back and did just some quick math, if we were going to do that, that means we'd have to sell the entire product line, which we were only selling 2 or maybe 3 products at the time. And so our average dollar sale would drop from where it is now. And based on where we think that average dollar sale would end up, that means we could be at $100 million. We could be working with between 6,000 and 10,000 businesses every single month. Now think about that for a second. 6,000 to 10,000 businesses every single month. And let's say on average, some businesses have 1 employee, some businesses have 100 employees. Let's say on average, a business has 10 employees. That's between 60 and 100,000 people per month, employees per month, and 60 to 100,000 families per month. All of a sudden, that new vision started to give us a picture of how we can change the way business is done and show people a way to make money and do it in a way that gives you your life back without the politics, without all that garbage that comes from the corporate environment that I grew up in. That's really exciting. Okay, so that was a huge part of the turning point. Was there's a huge vision out there. We didn't know how we were going to get it done, but we both bought into the vision. Next was that we ate our own cooking. That plan took us, it took us about a year to actually settle on the actual model that we wanted to use. Do we want to build a big building and stick 50 coaches in it, or do we want to make smaller regional offices? We ultimately arrived at a model that said we're going to build smaller regional offices, like bank branches, kind of. And we used a business planning tool and software called Ascend, and you're going to hear me reference that quite a bit, to actually model that out. So that let us model, the software does all the modeling for you. So that let us model out when we brought in people, when we were going to need infusions of capital, what the profit and loss and balance sheet and cash flow forecast looks like for the next 5 years. So we ate our own cooking here, used our own tool. And then we got the recipe right, so our people could work on the right things. Here's what happens. We have very well-intentioned employees. They buy into what we're, obviously buy into the vision and what we're trying to do here, but they can't read our minds. So they're running around after me and Mike, trying to figure out what to do next as we're tossing ideas out, okay? We had to give them a roadmap. That's part of what's going to come from your business plan, is to give your people what needs to happen when, and why. So they have context, they have a picture of where they're heading, and they understand why it's important and what the priorities are. And I like to think of it as that batch of cookies that you see in the corner. I'm not a baker. But if I were to hand you, I don't know if you guys are bakers or not, but if I were to hand you a 3x5 card that said, go to the store and buy these ingredients and mix them up in this order and put them in the oven at this temperature on this kind of a cookie sheet for this amount of time, and then they come out of the oven and they cool, you could make a pretty good batch of cookies, even though you've never done it before. Your business is the same way. You just need the recipe. So I'm going to share with you part of that recipe today. Here's where we are today, by the way. We own one of the top 5 firms in the world. We recently expanded into Milwaukee and are ready to expand in Dane County this coming May. I get to sit on a number of boards of directors, and that takes time, by the way. So that kind of tells you that I'm not working 80 hours a week. I get all this done in about 40, which gives me time to give back to the community and do it in a way that's very fulfilling for me personally. And then what you see up there on the top Top right-hand corner is me and my sister and my friend Kathleen running around Italy. That's a 2-year-old picture now because of COVID, but we're headed back in March. I can do that because my team knows what to do and they can be working on the right things. So I have the time, the energy, the money, and the bandwidth to actually enjoy the fruits of all of this labor. And that's your goal. That's your goal when you are starting up a new business, is not to start working 80 hours a week. You didn't buy yourself a job. That's called burnout. But to do this right, to use the recipe so that you are making the money that you want and need to make, you're making the impact in the world that you want to make in the world, and you're doing it in a way that really honors your time. So a little bit about ActionCOACH. ActionCOACH is the world's #1 business coaching firm, was established back in 1993. You're tapping into about the combined knowledge of about 1,200 coaching offices in 81 countries. Our vision is to create world abundance through business re-education. So many people get into business because of your skill or your craft or an idea, but they never taught you how to build a healthy, sustainable, growing business around that, which is why you end up working 80 hours a week or not making the money that you need to make, or stuck because you don't know what to do next. So that's what we do. So we coach over 18,000 businesses a week globally. What that means for you is you get all of that combined knowledge and experience supporting you and what I'll share with you here today. So second thing I promised to share were the 3 myths you've been led to believe by others that are actually causing you to avoid planning and stay stuck. And I'm going to handle the first here of the first 2 here together. The first is that a strategic or a business plan is going to cost you a lot of money. Okay. And second is that it's going to take a long time to finish it. In my corporate days, to do a business plan properly was a $40,000 to $60,000 endeavor and some ungodly number of committee meetings. And it did take 6 to 8 months to complete. And by the time we were done, everybody was so sick of the plan that people would start to find ways not to come to committee meetings. And some poor person would get stuck finishing the plan, which then became a nice $60,000 paperweight. So you avoid doing them because you don't want that to be the outcome. You know why it costs 60 grand? Because consultants need and why it takes 6 to 8 months to complete, because consultants need a reason to charge you $60,000. The Ascend process that we use takes 2 days. 2. And so therefore it's a fraction of the cost. And second is that you need to make hay while the sun shines. There's real work to do. You have proposals to get out the door. You have a sales meeting that you need to go to. You just met somebody important at a networking event. Real work versus this planning thing seems like interesting work, but it's not really going to make that much of a difference, right? You know what real work means? Real work means you're doing the work that somebody else should be doing. Now, you may be a solo right now and think, well, there's nobody else here to do the things that I'm doing. You know what? That's not true, because there are things that you should never do as a business owner. You should never do your own bookkeeping unless you're a bookkeeper or a CPA. Okay. Doing your own bookkeeping does not make you money. Okay. Doing your own taxes does not make you money. Cleaning your office does not make you money. All of those things that you're doing that take time and make you busy, you need to go back and really evaluate, are those things you should be doing, or are those an easy and relatively inexpensive thing to outsource? So this is a bonus. This isn't one of the things I'd share, but it's super important. How do you plan your business so you can make more money and work less? The more money you make, the less of your time it takes to make it, the more you can do what you set out to do. And it starts with this. It starts with the way you think, with your mindset. And here's, part of what people who do make work, you know how when you meet people sometimes and you think, wow, they really have it together. They are making great money. They're doing what, they're living out their passion here, and it's not killing them. They're doing it they have time for their family. They have time for their hobbies or their pursuits. One of the things that they know is where their power comes from. That spot in the middle of the screen is called the point of power. Below the point, we have blame, excuses, and denial, a feeling of powerlessness. Okay. When you're down here, when you find yourself frustrated and tired or angry or annoyed, it's really difficult to see possibility. Remember our 2 shoe sales reps? That person who was focusing on the hurdles, okay, wasn't seeing the opportunity because your brain can't multi-process. So part of living, understanding where your power comes from is that realize A, it's in the present. You can't change anything about the past. The future hasn't happened yet. And choosing, and it is a choice, to think and live above that point of power gives you, it doesn't just give you power, it gives you confidence, it gives you energy, ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Think of saying I get to rather than I have to. How those 2 different things feel. I know at many, many points in my career, prior to Action Coach, I was running a level company, like construction levels, laser levels. We had a lot of competition. The company I was in was a turnaround. So we were always late on shipping. We were always doing damage control with our retailers. I was down at the bottom lot. And what I didn't realize at the time was that my wallowing around down there was physically preventing my brain from seeing opportunities. When I chose to stand up and get above that point of power, I found that we had one customer in particular that was consuming a ton of my people's time and energy. And we were losing money on most of what we shipped them because of some historical pricing agreements that were in place. Well, we ended up saying goodbye to that customer, and we're profitable the next morning. Now, you can't get there if you're down at the bottom, okay? You've got to realize that you need to take a step back and look at your situation from the outside to see those possibilities. One way to think about this is that an outcome, if you just think of this formula, an outcome is the product of an event plus your response. And you may not have any control over the event. You don't have control over politics or Corona or the weather, any of that stuff, but you have 100% control over how you choose to respond. And that means you always have some control over the outcome. Does that make sense to everybody? You are never a victim. Wanted to share a quick case study with you. Luke Elsing owns Kiganza Plumbing, and Luke was a master plumber with another company, struck out on his own, came to the Ascend business plan, and swore that he was never going to have employees. Okay, never going to have employees. They're a pain. They're frustrating. I don't want to do that. I just want to be a master plumber. I'm really good at it. Okay. And Luke got into a situation where he was bringing in more work than he could handle. So he got on what we call the get the work, do the work seesaw. So he'd go and market and he'd get the work, and then he'd have to stop marketing to go execute on all that work. And all of a sudden there's nothing in the pipeline. So he was on this constant back and right, really frustrating place to be, really tiring place to be. Today, Luke not only has a crew, which he loves, by the way, because he works a whole lot less, but they've launched Kiganza remodeling services because they would go into people's bathrooms and realize that they also needed to have just basic remodeling work done on their bathrooms, and does it all in 40 hours a week. So that's the power of being able to shift your thinking and choose to stay above that point of power. All right, another little bit about learning and a little bit about running your business is you've got to be willing to have some fun. You start out having fun and then you get into the grind. And if you find out you're not having fun, what you need to realize is that you just need a different recipe. So if you're not having fun, that's fine. Just raise your hand and say, hey, help me with the recipe here. The other part is to plan with the end in mind. And this is a little bit counterintuitive when you're starting out, but our definition of a successful business is a commercial profitable enterprise that works ultimately without you. Okay. When you part of what you're going to want to think about while you're planning is where do you want to take this long term? Do you want to build something and flip it, sell it in a couple of years? Do you want to build something that's going to become a legacy for your family and is passed on through generations? Do you want to impact the world and grow a huge empire? What's the end goal for you? And work backwards from there. If that's 10 years or 20 years from now, what does half that distance look like? What does half that distance look like? Understanding what the end goal is will start to inform a very different set of decisions on the things that you do now. Good example of that, Broadway Advisors, Craig Stanley and Deanna Porter are the principals on Broadway. This was a startup 8 years ago. Couple of years in, they were winning some actually international awards for best company culture and best service business of the year. Think about the environment that we're in right now and attracting great employees. Okay. People want to work for companies that are going places. This is a company that's going places because they could see where the end game was or is and are building towards that. So quickly in the chat, and I'm not going to stop talking here. So I just want you to start putting this stuff in the chat. But we have these things called BFOs or blinding flashes the obvious. What are your big takeaways so far? Just what's a BFO that you've gotten so far with relation to how you need to think? And what's the number one thing you get to do in your business based on that? I'll give you just a second to get started, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. All right. And then number three, the 6 key areas to include in your business plan so you start out right, guaranteed. Now, one caveat here, I'm not going all the way back to the very beginning. I'm assuming that you have your product or service, that you've got some idea of how you're going to price it, that you know where you're going to sell it, and that you know how you're gonna deliver. So those 4 P's, I'm assuming you already have done. If you don't, a really good resource is the Small Business Development Center. They're really good at some of that really foundational stuff. Key number 1 to include in your startup plan is this: your truly unique selling proposition or your USP. Here's the question you need to be able to answer. Why would I buy from you and not somebody else? Is your product so unique that only you have it? And if it is, you should have patented it. Okay, that's the world I came out of, the consumer hard goods world with Capro, the Level Company, and Fiskars, the Orange Handled Scissors Company. We would patent our uniqueness so other companies couldn't sell what we did. If you're in a service-based business, why you? Why you if you're a CPA and not one of the 3,000 other CPAs in Madison, Wisconsin? Why you if you're a plumber and not one of the bajillion other plumbers that's in your area? the guy that you see on the screen, I love this because this is actually one of those stories within Action Coach. Somebody was headed, I got a plumber, was headed to like a black tie event with his wife, got an emergency call from a good client, and actually did the plumbing call in a tux. Okay. And that person, of course, told 10 people about her plumber that showed up to their house on a Friday night in a tux. So guess what all of their plumbers wear now? They're the plumbers that wear tuxes, and that's what they're known for. So it's a silly thing. Maybe it's a silly thing like that. Maybe it's that you're not just a CPA, but you're a CPA who specializes in foreign earned income. Or maybe you're a realtor who specializes in people who ride Harleys. What is it about you that sets you apart from the herd? That's the question you need to answer. Why would I do business with you and not somebody else who does what you do? The next one to include in your startup plan is your market penetration plan. Here's what happens. You get this great product or service idea. You get it all built out, all buffed out, and then you go to sell it and you try to sell it to everybody. Okay. Or you go to sell it and you realize you need to market. So you start marketing, but you start marketing without any real testing and measuring and metrics in place to know if your market's working. So the biggest thing to a market penetration plan is who is your target, or who are your targets? When I started this business, this is a business coaching business, right? So when I started this business, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to write this big check and buy this franchise, and then write another big check and go off to training, and then write another big check and get an office and bring people in, I'm only working with who I want to work with. And at the time, for me, it was, well, wine, cheese, chocolate, anything outdoors, and manufacturing. Those were my five. Those are my five target market areas. And the cool thing about choosing your target is then they're much easier to reach. Where do manufacturers hang out? How do they get their information? Then those are the strategies that you pick. Those are the messages that you send. Now, our client portfolio today has about 120 ongoing or active clients. Okay, they're in every industry on the planet, from wine to manufacturing to insurance to bookkeeping to law, you name it, it's in there. But from a targeting standpoint, the tighter your targets, and you're not just going to have one, you'll have multiple targets. The tighter your targets, the easier it is to connect with them, because you understand what's important to them. Third is your plan to continuing marketing, so you don't get into that get the work, do the work seesaw that I talked about. So this is very, very common, and I'm going to share Carl Beckman as an example. So Carl started as a solo general contractor with a truck. Okay. Carl would go out and market, he would get a job, and then he would go execute the job. And then he'd go market and he'd get another job and he'd go execute the job like this. Okay. Here's the problem with this. This is what happens to your revenues. Okay. This is what happens to your income and your time. So your income's doing this and your time is doing this. And you have a capacity of you. So the key to getting out of that get the work, do the work seesaw is a consistent drip marketing campaign, hunting as well as farming. Today, and I love this picture that that's Carl and his wife Mandy in the background. Today, Carl has a crew of, I don't know, I think 8 or 10. They do the work that he used to do. He just does basically quality control and is the face of the company out in the field. But that's Carl and his wife Mandy in some Caribbean island, smack dab in the middle of construction season. He can do that because he built his plan so that the team could take the business forward without him here. That's what you need to include. Number 4, consistent delivery. When you are starting out, people don't need gold medal service. They need consistent service. What you tell them to expect is what you need to be able to deliver on. So think of it, if you walk into McDonald's, you expect a consistent McDonald's burger and you expect it very quickly. If you walk into Deluxe, you expect a gourmet burger, you expect to pay more, you expect great service, and you expect to have something cool to drink with it as well. Okay. It doesn't matter what your vision is. Pick something and make sure your delivery mechanisms let you deliver on it consistently. You can deliver wow customer service. You can show up in a tux later. Right now, just deliver on what you've told people to deliver on. That needs to be baked into your plan. The next is a plan for you to staff up quickly and avoid bringing the wrong people onto your team. So here's what happens. You get busy, you decide you need an admin, and then you decide you need somebody who's, I don't know, can technically do the job to give you more capacity there. And then you decide you need a marketer. And your temptation is to take anybody who can fog a mirror because you're busy enough and you're getting overwhelmed enough that somebody is better than nobody. Bad mistake. Okay. Better to have you physically plan out, when I hit this revenue and profit and cash flow level, then it's time for me to bring the admin in. That admin's I'm going to invest this much money in that admin. It's going to take them this many months to get up to speed. And then when I hit this milestone, then it's time to bring in somebody who can take some more work off my plate. And when you hit this milestone, it's time to bring the next person in to take more work off your plate. Let's plan that now when you're not in the middle of chaos so that you don't make desperate mistakes in hiring later on. It's so much more expensive and so much more time consuming and so much more frustrating to deal with the wrong player on your team than to plan it out now while you have the time. And then as your plan, the final one is your plan and access to operational cash. As you grow, your cash requirements are going to grow as well. And as much as we have sort of a bootstrap kind of culture in the Midwest, growing using other people's money is often a very smart or smarter way to grow. So part of what you need to model into your plan is, when are you going to need those additional cash requirements? We opened up 2 offices in 1 year. Okay, we did that this past year. We brought in Joe Theismann to kick off those offices. Those were big, expensive events. We used someone else's money to bring the cash in to get those offices off the ground, because it would let them get off the ground much more quickly than if we just very methodically bootstrapped our way through those. So this is part of what your plan will allow you to see is when you're going to need infusions of cash. And then we can talk about what the best sources of those cash are. Is it through a bank? Is it through investors? Is it through friends and family? What are the best sources and how much and what for? So again, in the chat, couple more BFOs. What are you learning? What do you get to do in your business based on that? Let's just see a few things in there. And I'm going to keep going in the interest of time. All right. So the other part this is kind of the recipe that's, when you get this, I guarantee you will love it, because it virtually guarantees you consistent incoming cash. Okay, incoming business and incoming cash. One of the things that is a very real stress for new business owners and for business owners who have been at it for a long time is money. Okay. And when you know what to do to bring in the next customer when you need it, when you know what to do to have consistent incoming cash, your stress level is going to come way down. So this is the chocolate chip cookie recipe. Sorry, I'm letting somebody in here. It is a very simple and incredibly powerful recipe for you to learn. You will make more and work less because you'll be working on the right stuff. You'll stop wasting time and stop wasting money focusing on the wrong things. And here's how it looks. Most business owners know these three things. You know how many customers you have, you know what your revenues are, and you know how much profit you make. Those are results, okay? You can't go attend a networking event and out pops a customer. You can't run an ad and out pops a customer. All you can do is do marketing activities that generate a lead, okay? Someone who says they're interested in what you do. And then it's a different set of strategies, selling strategies or conversion strategies that convert that lead into a paying customer. So here's what that looks like. Everything in red is an outcome. So customers, revenue, profit are outcome. Everything in blue are the levers that you can pull to impact those outcomes. So you can do some marketing and generate a lead. A lead is somebody who says, I'm interested in learning more about what you do. Conversion rate, again, is about selling, about converting that lead into a paying customer. Then once somebody's a customer, on average, how often can they buy from you? And on average, how much do they spend? Those customers times transactions times average dollar sale give you your revenues. And then we back out your profit margins to get to your profit at the bottom. Cool. Okay, let's put in some numbers to have this make sense. I'm going to pretend that you own a hardware store. Okay, 5,000 people walk through your door in a year. If you are open 9 to 9, 7 days a week, that's about 1.5 persons per hour. So pretty slow retail operation. And on average, 1 in 5 people buy something from you. So you have a 20% conversion rate, which gives you 1,000 paying customers. And then on average, they come in twice a year. They spend $500. So 1,000 customers times twice a year times $500 gives you $1 million in revenue. And then you have a 10% profit margin. So you've got $100,000 in profit. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Getting this? Okay. So what do you do with that? Okay. Once we know this, we know exactly what to do with your business. Okay. This is super exciting. So let's say you have 5,000 people walk through your doors per day right now. Again, that's about 1.5 persons per hour. You work with your coach, you come up with 3 or 4 key marketing strategies that you test and you measure, and that gets 10% more people to walk through your doors. So 10% improvement is 500 people. So that takes you from 5,000 to 5,500. And then we teach your people how to sell. So instead of saying, hey, what brings you in today? Or can I help you with something? They actually learn how to be solution providers for your potential customers. And a 10% conversion improvement in conversion rate does not take you from 20 to 30%. It takes you to 22%. The math is 20% times 1.1. Now, 5,500 potential customers walking through your door, 22% purchase. Look at this, you already have 21% more customers, okay? Just by breaking down 10% at a time. And now a 10% improvement in conversion rate means that 2 more people out of 10 come in 1 more time per year. That's all that means. So when we get down to convert to transaction and average dollar sale strategies, those are about repeat business, okay? What are those repeat business strategies to get people to come back and buy more often? And then average dollar sale, if they're spending 500 already, to get them to spend 550, there are 80 some strategies around average dollar sale. Getting them to spend $50 more is not a big thing. Now check this out. And I hope some of you are doing the math at home with me. 1,210 customers times 2.2 visits per year times $550 on average. You're at 1.4 million, almost $1.5 million in sales. And then a 10% improvement in profit margins is very modest, takes you to 11% and gives you $161,000 of profit at the bottom. Okay, pretty cool, right? How many of you, with help, you don't have to do this by yourself, but how many of you could shift at least one of those areas by 10%? Could you do that? You could do that. Now, that's a 46% increase in your revenue and a 61% increase in your profit. So imagine what you would do with that. What would you do with an extra $61,000? If you've been in business already for a while, take your last year's profit and multiply it by 1.61 and look at that number. What would you do with that money? Would you give yourself a raise, start paying yourself more? Would you hire the next employee so that you can grow even faster? Would you take a vacation somewhere where your phone doesn't ring and really unplug? What would you do with that money? What would you do with an extra 61%? And here's the next one. Imagine if you did that 6 years in a row. This is what that looks like. Here's year one. We just went from $100,000 in profit to $161,000. Year two, you're at $2 million in sales and $259,000 in net profit. Year three, $3 million in sales and $417,000 in net profit. Year four, $4.5 million in sales and $670,000 in net profit. And look at year five, $6.7 million in sales and $1 million in net profit. That's from $100,000 6 years prior. Okay, 10% at a time. We're not talking about home runs here. We're talking about base hits. Kevin Peterson, another case study. Kevin started as an outsourced IT guy. Okay, the person that you brought in when IT companies would kind of get in over their head technically, they would bring Kevin in. So he was an outsourced IT guy. Today, Kevin built his plan with the end in mind. All right. Today he has over 30 employees, I believe, 24/7 coverage, all kinds of business continuity and infrastructure and security related services. It doesn't matter where you're starting. That's what this means for you is that it doesn't matter whether you're starting with just you, whether you already have a team. If he can do it, you can do it too. Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, one of the first female self-funded billionaires in the world. Sarah, Sarah's just, don't be intimidated by what you don't know. Be willing to invest in yourself and learn. James Malinchak, who's one of our coaches, he's probably the highest paid speaker in the world, and you've never heard of him. But he was on ABC's Secret Millionaire. And James is really big on this. If you can't see where you're going, you can't get there. It's really hard to hit a target that you can't see. You need to follow a blueprint from those who have done this before. So, promise to share 3 things with you. I'm getting right up on time. First was how my company went from stuck to explosive growth and what my turning point was. The turning point was doing a plan, guys. Second, were the myths you've been led to believe by others that are keeping you from getting started. This doesn't need to cost you a lot of money. It doesn't need to take you 6 months. And if you're doing all the work in your business, you're going to limit your ability to grow. And third, the recipe, the simplest, fastest ways for you to include those 6 critical areas in your plan that most startups miss. And the second are those 5 strategies: leads, conversion rate, transactions, average dollar sale, and profit, that will guarantee you will make more money in your business and do it in less time. And we talked about that. So we're called Action Coach for a reason, not think about it, coach, not that was a cool formula, coach. It's line in the sand time, guys. You have to do something with this and commit to yourself to making the investments in yourself and in your business if you're going to be successful as a startup. So here's the thing. I can guarantee 12 months from today, you'll arrive somewhere. The question is where. That guy on the left was me when I was running Capro Tools, because I was working on the wrong stuff. I didn't know how to manage my people because they were running around trying to please me, right? But I didn't give them the plan. Okay. Where are you here? This is the goal. Set your business up so that this is what you get from the get-go, not 20 years ago, not 20 years from now, after you're all burned out. So it's about this. Your plan gives you the opportunity to have these things. It's about giving you more wealth, more opportunity, and more freedom. So some free resources for you. We have a number of free, they are in person, by and large in person. We'll buy you lunch, and they're free events that take you through things like this in a 90-minute format. They're called Make More Work Less. It's sharing pieces of the blueprint with you. You will learn much more. I'd like to offer those up to you. There's one tomorrow, by the way, and then a couple coming up later in the month. You can also, would love to offer you a 20-minute strategy session with a coach if you want to run your plan by somebody and get a second set of eyes. If you're struggling with something in particular and just want help on that something, we're happy to give you that time and invest some time with you. You can sign up for either of those at our website, which is down on the bottom of the screen. It's makemoreworkless.actioncoach.com. And then quoting Brad Sugarseed, Brad is the founder of ActionCOACH. You know you've made up a good decision when it brings up fear or excitement. Here's the coolest thing about a plan. If your plan doesn't bring up fear or excitement, what you have is a to-do list. Your plan will give you energy to push through the tough stuff, to get started and get that great momentum. If this were easy to do, it'd be easy to blow off. So take the plan part seriously, and then get into action. Okay. Don't make the mistake of taking notes, putting them on your pile, and going back to the chaos. Take this stuff and do something with it. Go to makemoreworkless.actioncoach.com. We are happy to help in any way that we can. And thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you to Andy and to DreamBank for having us. And with that, I think, Andy, I will open it up for questions.
Thank you so much for that, Susan. Such a wealth of information. And yes, please go ahead and get any questions you may have for Susan in. As we go ahead and wrap up here, though, too, I really wanted to kind of highlight a couple things. I went and put the link in the chat there of upcoming DreamBank events, and I will go ahead and do that again, just so that you folks have that. Again, that's our most concise list of our upcoming events that we have. We typically have about an event a day, 9 distinct event series as well, too. So please go ahead and check that out. Susan, you know, as we kind of you know, wrap up here, we always try to ask, because our community is made up of fellow fearless dreamers, what is a piece of advice that you have for someone who is actively pursuing a dream right now?
Decide to actually do it. Okay, that's the biggest thing. Decide to do it. My business partner just went on a vacation for 3 weeks in January. He didn't know how I was going to do it, but you know what? It worked. And the business grew while he was gone. We had another client who decided he was going to take off the entire month of December. And we were in Ascend, the business planning, or the business planning boot camp. And one of the other business owners in the room said, "How on earth did you do that?" And he said, "I just decided to do it." Stop worrying about the how Get focused on the what. Make the investments in yourself. We would call it Dream, Goal, Learn, Plan, Act. Okay, DGLPA. Dream first, learn what you need to learn, do the plan, and then act. Dream, Goal, Learn, Plan, Act.
Thank you so much for that. It doesn't look like any other questions have come in at this time, so we will go ahead and cap it there. I want to thank Susan again for putting together such a great presentation. Thank you all for tuning in. With that being said, we will see you all next time. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.